Thank you for joining NMH at 1, where we take a look at the news making headlines in the land of the brave and beyond, ranging from current affairs to community stories, sports and economic news. In the news today, killer city cops slapped with increased prison terms, landlords urged to stop eviction of tenants without a court order, and parents and guardians accused of abusing disability grants. I am Ashwin Berry, midday news update after the break. Grootfontein Police, Neighborhood Watch and other security groups are currently on the lookout for 5 suspects who attacked and robbed 70-year-old Udo Gardner on a farm outside Grootfontein yesterday evening. The suspects, who allegedly pretended to be police officers investigating a murder case, gained access to the farmhouse and reportedly stole weapons, jewelry and cell phones. According to the spokesperson of the Namibian police in the Oshodonjupa region, Maureen Beha, one of the suspects was wearing a Namibian Police Special Forces uniform, while the others were dressed in civilian attire equipped with reflectors. The suspects allegedly demanded that Gardner open his safe for them, after which they purportedly hit him on the head and arms with the back of a firearm. He is in stable condition and his wife was not injured. Remember to engage with these stories on our social media throughout the broadcast. Visual News follows.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Heading into visual news, 3 towns in the Erongo region will be hosting the ARAF 2023 Trade Fair from 27 to 30 September at Luna Park in Omaruru. Watch what the mayor of Omaruru, Vincent Kahioa, has to say.
And I also very grateful to inform you that Omaruru as a town, Omaruru Municipality, Karipep Town Council, Usakos Town Council, last year we have signed the very first agreement in Namibia for the 3 towns to work together in terms of a memorandum of understanding, which was having a blessing of the regional council, Erongo Regional Council, the governor office, and also our line minister. The deputy minister of our line ministry, Honorable Natalia Kwakosev, have signed on that agreement, and also the 3 towns mayors, Omaruru, Karipep, Usakos. And this year, 2023 September, from the 27th September up to the 30th September, we are going to host a joint trade fair. This year for the 3 towns, Omaruru is the host for this year, 2023, and then 2024 it will be Karipep, and then 2025 it will be Usakos, and then it will turn back again to Omaruru in 2026. I'm very grateful to say that we are busy now preparing. There is a technical committee chaired by the Chief Executive of Karipep, Leslie Korosep, and they are busy now preparing. And hereby, I would also like to request our mines, Navahab, Rosing Mines, and also maybe the communication companies like MTC to come on board so that they really be part of this big event of the 3 towns, comes 27 September to the 30th, which we hope it will help to stimulate and improve the economy of these 3 towns. And in future, we want to cooperate in terms of sharing resources, whether it is human resource or maybe equipment, where we want in future maybe to have a budget with the 3 towns together, put funds together for big project. If we see that Omaruru have maybe a certain challenges, and then this specific fund we call under Ukulak fund, helping now Omaruru in the certain year, and then the other year we are going to help Usakos, and then other year we are going to help CARIPEP. And this we want to do together as the three towns.
Defense Minister Frans Kapofi has distanced SWAPO from fish rot. More on this in the newspaper review after the break. Let's get into the newspaper review. Namibian Sun's front page reports that Defense Minister Frans Kapofi has distanced SWAPO from fish rot, saying the party did not initiate the corruption scandal, but rather suffered as a consequence of it. The party is alleged to have benefited to the tune of 7 million Namibian dollars from the bribery scandal. Kapofi made the comments at internal party elections held in the John Pandeni constituency in the Commerce region over the weekend. We have suffered because of certain things that have happened, things like fish rot. We lost a fortune, but it was not SWAPO, Kapofi said of the scandal that led to the arrest of his former cabinet colleagues, Fisheries Minister Bernard Esau and Justice Minister Saki Shangala. On page 3, some parents and guardians of children living with disabilities in Namibia are reportedly abusing government grants paid out to support the intended beneficiaries. Instead, the young beneficiaries are often left to languish in abject poverty, a government youth officer has warned. Last year, the government raised disability grants for children under the age of 18 from 250 Namibian dollars to 1,300 Namibian dollars. However, despite this significant increase, many beneficiaries do not reap the benefit of the funds as parents or guardians use the money for their purposes, neglecting the needs of the children. The dilemma was highlighted by Ministry of Youth official Tobias Mumoye, who works with young people with disabilities, during a workshop at Oneuptwo earlier. Republican says that Justice Minister Yvonne Dalsab says she will claim her place in Namibia amid homophobic attacks targeted at her and calls to remove her as minister. A group calling itself Stop Homosexuality and Same-Sex Marriages in Namibia recently wrote to President Hage Geingob asking for Dalsab's removal as minister. The group's demands are based on the minister's purported same-sex marriage to a local media personality. The marriage is said to have been solemnized abroad as it is illegal to do so in Namibia. On page 3, the Environment Ministry is currently assessing bids for the sale of 40 crocodiles. The animals are said to be sold to minimize human-wildlife conflict, with spokesperson Romeo Muyunda saying the ministry received 3 bids after it advertised the sale last month. The crocodiles to be sold are all adults and would not be larger than 3 meters. Muyunda said they expect the assessment of the bids to be completed by today. Bid envelopes are only opened as each is assessed, and therefore the ministry cannot say whether all the bids are from Namibia, he explained. The assessment process will inform the ministry on what needs to be done, whether the bids meet the requirements or if the tender needs to be re-advertised. Since 2019, the ministry has paid offset amounts of over 2.3 million Namibian dollars for losses caused by crocodiles. This includes 575,000 for 195 cases of livestock losses, 140,000 Namibian dollars for 14 cases of injury to people, and over 1.6 million Namibian dollars for human lives lost. On its front page, the Agamana Zeitung reports that only 17 heads of state from 49 of the 54 African countries personally attended the second Russia-Africa summit in St. Petersburg. The declaration adopted there calls for a stable world order based on the principles of sovereign equality of states and non-interference in internal affairs. On page 3, Agamana Zeitung reports that after the Chinese construction company had failed to meet its tax obligations, the Namibian Tax Authority had simply debited the outstanding amount from their bank account. In doing so, NAMRA had violated a previously negotiated agreement, according to Zhong Mei. Stay with us as we continue with the Namibian newspaper after the break. The Namibian newspaper reports that concerns are being raised about landlords and estate agents forcibly evicting tenants from places they are renting without obtaining a court order, despite clear provisions in existing legislation that prohibit arbitrary evictions. Property expert Johanna Shikongo, speaking at the Tenant and Land Conference in Windhoek over the weekend, said this vital legal protection is not being consistently observed in practice, as numerous instances of evictions are happening without court orders. On page 3, the fatal assault that 3 Windhoek City police officers carried out on a teenager in April 2013 was a brutal and cruel attack. A Supreme Court judge has commented in a judgment in which the 3 former officers' sentences on a charge of murder were increased from 10 years imprisonment each to 18 years on Friday. The 3 ex-officers, Verna Johannes Shetekela, Cleopas Kapalanga and Elia Nakale, carried out an attack on the 17-year-old Mandela Ramakutla over a sustained period during which they foresaw Ramakutla's death and reconciled themselves to that possibility, Appeal Judge Dave Smuts said in Supreme Court's judgment. On New Era's front page, the relationship between Namibia and Russia is etched in blood. To buttress those ties, Vice President Nangolo Mbumba led a strong Namibian delegation to St. Petersburg, the Russian port city on the Baltic Sea, to attend the second Russia-Africa Economic and Humanitarian Summit, which concluded on Friday. The Namibian delegation comprised cabinet ministers, parliamentarians, academics, and company representatives, and was extremely active at the highest levels to attract investors to Namibia. Chief among the key takeaways from the well-attended Indaba is the confirmation by Mumba that negotiations are ongoing between Namibia and Russia on a reciprocal meat trade agreement. On page 3, employees at Etosha Fishing can breathe a sigh of relief after the company made a U-turn on its plan to lay off some workers. This after the government came to their rescue through an allocation of 5,000 metric tons of a governmental objective horse mackerel quota to sustain the cannery operations and preserve employment. Until now, the future of at least 430 employees of Etosha Fishing, one of the oldest fishing companies in Namibia, was bleak, as they were expected to be without jobs starting next month. In a statement, the company announced that there will be no retrenchments. Employees, however, will not be expected back at work immediately, as they will have to work on a turnaround strategy to make the company more profitable, the company said. And MarketWatch reports that there were 9 internet restrictions in 8 African countries in the first half of 2023, and this was double the number of restrictions at the same time last year, according to a report by Surfshark. Surfshark is a Netherlands-based internet monitor, and they said the restrictions were related to political turmoil and protests. All of Africa's new restrictions were imposed amid protests or other political turmoil, highlighting the critical role the internet plays during periods of civil unrest, the organization said in a statement. The African countries that experienced internet shutdowns between January and June this year were Ethiopia, Mauritania, Senegal, Guinea, Sudan, and Tanzania. Stay with us as we head into economic news after the break.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the 115.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune into Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
South Africa's central bank has warned of dire consequences should the country face censure due to its stance on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. At worst, secondary or indirect sanctions could be imposed on the country and lead to a sudden halt to capital inflows and increased outflows, the bank said in its latest financial stability review published on Monday. It cautioned that South Africa's financial system would be unable to function if its ability to make international payments in dollars was impeded. More than 90% of South Africa's international payments are currently processed through the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications System. Herco Steyn, the lead author of the report, told reporters now South Africa has adopted what it says is a non-aligned stance toward the war in Ukraine, and it has abstained from several United Nations votes condemning Russia's actions. Let's head into the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades at 17.72 next to the US dollar, with 19.53 Namibian dollars getting you €1. Looking at selected NSX stock closing prices, most stocks maintained their value as Capricorn Investment Group Limited managed a 0.10% uptick. Overall index closed down 1.18%, while Strasco Group Holdings made an upsurge of 30.40%. Looking at commodities, gold and platinum made some downturns, whilst the upticks were registered by copper and Brent crude oil. Senegalese opponent vows hunger strike as lawyers lambast arrest. Stay with NMH at 1.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Heading into news from Africa, firebrand Senegalese opposition politician Ousmane Sonko said on Sunday he had started a hunger strike from custody after being arrested this week as his lawyers condemned his arrest. Senegal's public prosecutor on Saturday announced 7 new charges against the politician, a vocal critic of President Macky Sall, who has faced a string of legal woes he claims are aimed at keeping him out of politics. In the face of so much hate, lies, oppression, persecution, I have decided to resist, Sonko wrote, inviting all political detainees to join him on the strike. He is scheduled to be interrogated by a judge today. In a press conference yesterday in the capital, Dakar, Sonko's lawyers said authorities had not respected his rights. One of them, the French national Juan Branco, appeared at the press conference despite Senegalese prosecutors filing an international arrest warrant against him on July 14. On June 22, Branco said he had filed a criminal complaint against Sall in France for crimes against humanity and had requested a probe by the International Criminal Court in The Hague. His initiatives also named Interior Minister Antoine Felix Abdoulaye Diome and Gendarmerie Chief General Moussa Fall among more than 100 others who were accused. We swing over to China as we head into international news. China should be able to meet standards set out in a major trans-Pacific trade pact, trade experts say, forcing members to make a politically uncomfortable decision on whether to let Beijing join a deal created to counter its growing influence. Britain joined the Comprehensive Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership at a meeting in Auckland this month, just over 2 years after its application, clearing the way for members to consider others from China, Taiwan, Ukraine, Costa Rica, Uruguay and Ecuador. China's application, by far the biggest economy, is next in line if they are dealt with in the order they are received, although that is not a given. When asked whether there was a time frame for when the next applications could be considered, CPTPP host nation New Zealand's Trade Minister Damien O'Connor said no. The free trade agreement has its root in the US-backed Trans-Pacific Partnership, developed in part to counter China's growing economic dominance. The US pulled out after President Donald Trump, and it was reborn as the CPTPP with members including close US allies Japan, Australia, and Canada. China wants to be a part of the CPTPP because the ruling Communist Party places a lot of stock in its economic performance, which has suffered recently due to various trade restrictions, and because it sees the bloc's high accession requirements as fresh impetus for economic reform at home, analysts say. Now, the absence of the world's largest economy incentivizes China to meet the high entry requirements, as the hidden motive for Beijing is to defeat the scheme by the US to use the CPTPP as a way to contain China, said Henry Gao, a law professor at Singapore Management University. Stay with us as we head into local sport after this break.
eTicket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
We start off with local football. A number of Kruger Top supporters and members are demanding that a recent executive election be nullified, while also raising concerns about the club's recently released financial reports. The club elected Herculano Mueño as its chairman for the fourth time, but some have accused the 15 July elections of having been conducted unfairly. The Vivo Energy Windhoek Marathon, held in the capital on Saturday morning, produced thrilling races. Enoch Fiku won the men's 42.2-kilometer category in a time of 2 hours, 34 minutes and 39 seconds, while Alina Armas claimed first place in the women's 42.2-kilometer category, clocking 2 hours, 48 minutes and 57 seconds. The Samsung Windhoek High School Kudu Bulls got a psychological monkey off their back by beating the Schoolman's Group Windhoek Gymnasium Lions 24-23 in a spectacular Standard Bank Under-19 Super League match of Namibia Secondary Schools Rugby. WHS was on the scoreboard within the first 3 minutes when fly-half Caden Moller made defenders grab at the air to dive over for the Kudu Bulls' first try. Moller converted and also struck with a penalty as his side trails 10-11 at half-time. We'll be swinging over to Women's Football World Cup as we head into international sport.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, Oneuptwo.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
We start international sport at the Women's Football World Cup. New Zealand's proud players hope their performances at the World Cup will be a turning point for women's football in the country, despite the pain of an early exit. Some of the team were in tears as the tournament co-hosts bowed out on Sunday in the group stage in front of a sellout 25,000 crowd in Dunedin. Borussia Dortmund punished Manchester United's defensive lapses on Sunday as the English Premier League giants wrapped up their North American tour with a 3-2 defeat to the Bundesliga side in Las Vegas. And Chelsea have agreed to a deal to sign France defender Axel Disasi from Ligue 1 side Monaco, British media said on Sunday. The 25-year-old is set to move to Stamford Bridge in a deal reportedly worth $49.58 million and will be another option to cover for injured compatriot Wesley Fofana. If you are just joining NMH at 1, we'll get into the highlights from this afternoon's broadcast after the break.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. Let's get into the highlights from this afternoon's broadcast. Firebrand Senegalese opposition politician Ousmane Sonko said on Sunday he had started a hunger strike from custody after being arrested this week as his lawyers condemned his arrest. China should be able to meet standards set out in a major trans-Pacific trade pact, trade experts say, forcing members to make a politically uncomfortable decision on whether to let Beijing join a deal created to counter its growing influence. And a number of Kukatop's supporters and members are demanding that a recent executive election be nullified, while also raising concerns about the club's recently released financial reports. Those have been your highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. to spend your lunch hour with NMH at 1, catching up on the latest news in Namibia, Africa, and the world.